Everyone stood and clapped like it was a scene from some feel-good family movie. A baby, flowers, tears in their eyes. And I was the only one who felt nothing. No joy. No tenderness. Just a slow, heavy feeling that I didn't belong there. Even though everyone kept saying, "This is yours. This is your family." Everyone else in the room was clapping. Smiling. Crying even. My wife was glowing in that hospital bed, holding a newborn wrapped in a soft blue blanket. Her mother hovered over her shoulder like a saint, whispering how perfect he was. Nurses exchanged knowing glances. Her sister snapped a photo. And I stood there, hands stiff, throat dry, feeling like I'd walked into someone else's life. "He looks just like you," Stephanie whispered, smiling up at me. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't know what else to do. See, when you've lived with someone long enough, you know the sound of their silence. You know when their laugh is different. When their phone stays too close, face down. When their hugs feel like habits, not gestures. Stephanie's "I love you" had started to sound like an answering machine, automatic, hollow, and always a second too late. 9 months ago, she started working late. Real late. Then came the perfume I didn't recognize. Then came the secret new pin on her phone. Then came the distance. And then came the baby. When she told me she was pregnant, I said all the right things. Smiled. Held her. Asked no questions. Because part of me wanted to believe. The other part already knew. The night we brought the baby home, her mom moved in. Just for a week to help. That week turned into a month. I got used to sleeping on the far side of the bed. Got used to hearing them whispering in the kitchen, like I was the stranger in the house I paid for. No one asked how I felt. No one asked if I was ready to be a father. It was just assumed. Expected. Like I had no say in the matter. Like I didn't matter at all. What they didn't know was that every diaper I changed, every bottle I warmed, every forced smile I put on when visitors showed up, I was also collecting. Memories. Clues. Patterns. Her phone, for one, kept lighting up at 2 a.m. Always from Lena. But Stephanie didn't have a Lena. She'd started using a different email. I found the recovery code for it in our shared inbox. Clicked it. Logged in. And that's when the cracks turned into full-on collapse. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because when you're betrayed this deeply, you don't scream. You don't cry. You plan. You bide your time. You let them dig the hole. And when the moment's right, you show them the shovels in your hands. At first, it was small things. The way she'd flinch when I walked into the room unannounced. How she'd switch apps on her phone so fast it looked rehearsed. Or how our son, her son, never seemed to look at me the way newborns do their fathers. But it was the baby blanket that really did it. One evening, while folding laundry, I noticed it had initials stitched into the corner. KR. Not mine. Not hers. Just 2 letters, neat and discreet. "Who's KR?" I asked casually. She blinked. "Oh, it was a gift. From one of the girls at work." I didn't say anything. Just nodded. But something in her voice, it had that edge. That high-pitched tightness people get when they're lying but trying not to sound like it. So I waited. Not because I was scared of the answer, but because I wanted the full picture before I lit the match. That night, while she slept, I took her phone. It was risky, sure, but I'd watched her enter the passcode enough times. Muscle memory is a hell of a thing. I didn't find what I expected. There were no flirty messages, no hidden photo albums. Nothing obvious. But what I did find was an alternate email listed under her backup settings, k.rowley82@. And there it was. KR. Now I knew. I ran a simple password recovery, used the email tied to our shared phone bill as a hint. 5 minutes later, I was inside an inbox that was practically a confession booth. Photos. Messages. Plane tickets. Receipts from a boutique hotel on the other side of town. One folder was labeled, "Before things got complicated." Another simply said, "Plan B." Inside that one? A PDF of a custody agreement template, dated 3 weeks before the baby was even born. I closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling for what felt like an hour. She wasn't just cheating. She was building an exit. And she thought I'd never notice. The next day, I booked an appointment. Private lab. DNA test. Quiet, no questions asked. Just me and the baby, a cheek swab, and a pit in my stomach. 3 days later, the result came back. 0% match. Just 3 words, really. But they echoed like a gunshot. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat there. Cold. Numb. Like someone had unplugged me from the grid. And still, I said nothing. Because I knew there was one more piece to this puzzle I needed. I needed to know who the hell KR really was. And what gave her the audacity to hand me another man's child, look me in the eye, and say, "He has your eyes." They all had something to say. Her mom. Her sister. Even her cousin who hadn't spoken to us in 3 years suddenly had opinions. "He's still a baby," they said. "He needs a father. Don't punish the child for her mistakes." The words came like little knives, one by one, and none of them ever actually asked how I was doing. Not once. No one said, "Are you okay? Do you feel like this is your son? Do you even believe her?" Because it didn't matter what I felt. It only mattered that I stayed. I was the accessory to their happy picture. A placeholder. A seat filler in someone else's story. At night, I'd lay in bed listening to the baby breathe in the next room, while she scrolled silently beside me, glowing screen lighting up her face, casting shadows I didn't recognize. She wasn't cheating anymore. At least I didn't think so. But the betrayal wasn't in where she was. It was in how she looked at me. Like she expected me to carry this weight. Without flinching. Without protest. Because I was the good guy. And good guys don't walk away. Right. But every day I held that child, every time I fed him, something inside me cracked just a little deeper. Not because of the baby. He was innocent. He was quiet. Soft. Helpless. It was the lie wrapped around him that cut the deepest. I started waking up early. Before anyone else. Drinking my coffee outside. Thinking. Not panicking. Not planning revenge. Just collecting silence. That's when I noticed the SUV. Dark gray. Always parked down the block. Same plates. Same tinted windows. At first I thought I was imagining things. Then I noticed it was only there on Mondays and Thursdays, days she said she had her support group. I never asked. Because I already knew what the answer would be. A lie, polished and ready. But I did write the license plate down. And I saved it. Because if they wanted me to play dad, to play stupid, to play nice, they were about to find out. I don't stay stupid forever. I didn't call a lawyer. Not yet. First, I called a man named Eli. We went to college together. He used to drink whiskey straight and memorize poker tells like scripture. Now he wore suits and ran a private investigations firm 3 cities over. "You sure you want this?" he asked, no judgment in his voice. I nodded. "All right. Give me what you've got." I handed over the plate number, a couple of screenshots, a schedule I'd quietly put together over the last month. Just dates. Times. Patterns. "Her group therapy meets on Mondays and Thursdays," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "In a car with out-of-state plates?" I didn't smile. We didn't talk about the kid. About paternity. About what I suspected and didn't want to say aloud yet. This wasn't about feelings. This was about facts. Eli gave me a firm nod. Give me a week. He took the file, tucked it into a slim folder, and left with that same quiet stride he always had. The kind of man who didn't rush, because he already knew the end of the story. I went back home and sat in the driveway for half an hour before going inside. Inside, everything looked normal. She was on the couch, baby asleep on her chest, TV playing softly. She looked tired. Worn down. Maybe even human again. And for a split second I felt guilty. But then I remembered the blanket with the wrong initials. The emails. The fake support group. The SUV. And the guilt turned cold. That night, as she slept, I looked over at her and wondered how many layers a person could wear before they stopped being real. She used to laugh in her sleep. Now she barely moved. She hadn't touched me in months, not even accidentally. It was like living with a ghost who still expected you to pay the mortgage. The next morning, I got a text from Eli. Got something. You're not crazy. That was all he said. And somehow, it was enough to keep me breathing. For now. Because it meant I wasn't alone in this. It meant the truth existed somewhere. And I was getting closer. 3 days after Eli's message, I got a folder in the mail. No text. No call. Just a thick manila envelope with my name, typed clean, no return address. Inside were stills. Screenshots. Notes scribbled in his all-caps handwriting. Photos printed on glossy paper, the kind that doesn't smudge when your hands shake. The SUV? A restaurant 25 miles out of town. A motel with hourly rates. Her stepping out. Him holding the door open. Not touching. Not kissing. Just synchronized. People in love don't need to hold hands to be obvious. They move like a habit. And the two of them were routine. One photo caught me, mid-step. She's laughing. That laugh I hadn't heard in a year. Head tilted back, eyes squinting, pure joy. And it wasn't for me. He was tall. Athletic. Clean-cut. Looked like the kind of guy who doesn't sweat in meetings and plays squash after work. The kind of guy her friends would call a good catch. His initials? KR. Of course they were. I sat at the kitchen table, the photos spread out in front of me, coffee going cold, baby monitor humming softly in the background. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger would have been easier. What I felt was closer to clarity. Like someone wiped the fog off a mirror and, for the first time in months, I saw everything exactly as it was. And it was broken. That afternoon, I went to pick up some groceries. Milk. Diapers. Paper towels. I paid in cash. I didn't tell her I was going. Didn't say when I'd be back. When I returned, she barely looked up. And when I walked past her on the way to the bedroom, her phone lit up on the coffee table. Name hidden. Just 3 words on the preview. Is he gone? I didn't check the rest. I didn't need to. The next morning, I emailed a lawyer. Didn't tell her I knew. Didn't mention the photos. The texts. The man with the same initials stitched into our son's blanket. I let her have her normal. One last time. She got up. Fed the baby. Scrolled her phone. Laughed at a TikTok. Kissed me on the cheek when she passed. I let her. Because it was the last time she'd ever get to touch me without flinching. That afternoon, I scheduled 3 emails. The first went to Human Resources at her job, anonymously, of course, with a friendly note about concerning off-site activity during company hours, and a few attachments. Time-stamped photos. Matching dates with sick days. One flagged receipt from a client expense card. The second went to KR's wife. Yes, he had one. Thank you, Eli. The third went to myself. Just a reminder. Pick up keys at the new apartment. I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. And silence. And peace. That night, I waited until the baby was asleep. She was on the couch, wine in hand, a blanket over her legs, pretending we were fine. I stood in the doorway, watched her for a moment. Then I said flatly, "I know." She blinked. "Know what?" "You can stop lying now. I've seen the emails. The photos. The receipts. I know about him. And I know the baby isn't mine." She stared. Pale. Silent. Then the excuses started. "It wasn't like that. I was lonely. You were always working. It was a mistake. He doesn't mean anything." I didn't interrupt. I let her speak. Because none of it mattered. I already had the lawyer. Already signed the papers. Already packed my things. "You're leaving?" she asked, voice cracking. "No," I said. "You are." She laughed. A short, dry, desperate sound. "This is my house." "No," I replied. "I bought it. Title's in my name. You never checked. You were too busy pretending." I handed her the envelope. Inside, divorce papers, a copy of the DNA test, and a detailed breakdown of what I'd already moved to a separate account. She flipped through it like she was trying to find the page where she still wins. There wasn't one. And then came the final move. I opened the laptop on the table. Hit play. On the screen, security footage. Not just of her. Of her and him. Entering my house. While I was at work. Carrying wine. Laughing. Disappearing into my bedroom. She gasped. I didn't blink. "I'm not staying," I said. "I'm not fighting. I'm not even mad. I'm just done." I left without slamming the door. No screaming. No final insult. No dramatic exit. Just my bag, my keys, and the sound of her crying in the hallway. Funny how people only start begging once they realize you're serious. That night, I slept better than I had in a year. Not because I was over it. Not because I felt powerful. But because the noise was finally gone. The pretending. The waiting. The trying. Gone. A week later, her mother called. Voicemail. "You're being cruel. That child needs you." I didn't respond. Her sister texted. "You're really walking away from a baby?" Yes. They all wanted me to wear the guilt like a uniform. To play the role. To absorb the shame she created. But I don't owe anyone a performance. I sent her the final signed documents. No spousal support. No shared custody. I offered one thing, peace. She didn't sign right away. She stalled. Made noise. Threatened lawyers. Cried again. But the truth doesn't care how loud you cry. It just stands there. Still. Undeniable. Her affair had a name, a face, and now, a cost. By the second week, I got an email from her job. She'd been transitioned out of her position. No reason listed. No farewell post. By the third week, I heard from Eli. KR moved out. His wife took the kids. Your package landed. I didn't ask what he meant by package. I didn't need to. One morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was him. I didn't answer. He called again. This time, he left a voicemail. "I didn't know she was married." "Sure, buddy. And I didn't know you were a coward." By the end of the month, I had a new apartment. Small. Quiet. Paid in full. I'd gone back to work. Different city. Different people. Nobody knew my story, and I liked it that way. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder how she was doing. Then I'd remember, it doesn't matter. Because healing doesn't come from knowing they're hurting. It comes from knowing you're not there anymore. One day, maybe the kid will grow up and ask who I was. And someone will say, "He was a good man. He just wasn't your father." And that'll be enough. Because I may not have stayed to raise a child that wasn't mine. But I stayed long enough to remember who I was. And now I get to live like it.